What is a good weakness to mention on a job interview? What is your greatest weakness? Probably that I have no strengths. Those big, blue eyes of yours. My eyes are brown. And my second greatest weakness would probably be observational skills, I guess. Why do you want to work here? I'd say my greatest weakness is listening. I take words too literally. Can you give an example? Yes. When I was graduating college, I got interview tips from my dad, who was heavily involved in the hiring process at his company for his department. His advice on this one, which I've used ever since and has gone great, was, the wholesale weakness that's actually a positive has been done to death and is such common knowledge that it's no longer a clever trick and is now seen as avoiding the question. People want to see some self-awareness. Obviously don't bring something absolutely terrible up, but mention a real flaw and most importantly what you've done to address or work with it. For example, the one I tend to use is that I can be forgetful, so I now keep multiple sets of calendars, reminders, notes, etc. to cover as much as possible. I did the same thing when I got my current job. I told them I have ADHD, but it's not too much of an issue, as it has forced me to become incredibly organized and keep notes and checklists and calendar reminders. So I rarely forget stuff, and I'm more organized than most. The only problem is that I sometimes worry about whether I've forgotten something anyway, and need to double check things. Edit. Well, this blew up. I'm obviously not saying that everyone should disclose all their disabilities, but if you have it under control and can actually put a positive spin on it, such as me being even more organized than the average person because the ADHD forces me to, you can maybe get away with it. I'm also not American, so there's obviously some cultural differences to consider as well, which is why my post was a reply to someone else, not a separate suggestion. Doesn't that just make this a bad question for an interview? Well, it depends how you measure good and bad. For low-level positions, they're not looking to build a profile on you based on your literal answer. They're looking more for how you answer. Are you giving a lifeless robotic answer, or are you giving a relatable human answer? Are you comfortable discussing things like this, or does it make you panicky? Are you giving something canned or introspective? And then for higher level positions, you should have enough experience to actually know your weaknesses, and this would get more field specific and relative. And at this point all the gimmicky answers would be a no-go. So essentially there's more being evaluated during interviews than the literal answers given. Hope this helps a little, but yeah, I hate the question too. If you are changing industries, your biggest weakness is not knowing the industry yet. If you are younger, say inexperience. Anything to show your willingness to learn and develop. I got my current job after I said this. The interviewer asked me if I had any questions or concerns about the position. I said, I'm a quick and eager learner, but I'll be honest, I have absolutely no experience in this industry, so training me will need to be from the ground up. Will that be an issue? And that's how you do it, folks. I said I don't like letting go of unfinished projects during my interviews. I feel like it shows that I'm dedicated to the work I take on. Be careful of humble brags. Some of them are overused. For example, I know some people say I'm a workaholic as a weakness. And you'd think that would make you sound very hardworking, but it's been heard 1,000 times and is not unique or strong. Hearing the workaholic thing too is extremely off-putting to me, because it either means fear a kisses or they will put in a ton of overtime and stress out everyone else. Because they now have to keep up with that person putting in the time of 2 people, and then just ultimately burn out. Actual weakness. Taking on jobs by myself, not taking time to train other people to do them. In the end, I'm usually the guy and find myself feeling burnt out. Probably could be worded better at an interview, but this could sound like you're a go-getter. It might also encourage your employer to find opportunities for you to train other people to do things you particularly don't like doing. Training people is a lot of work with little reward, and if things go south you can get shit on you didn't train them on this. I got burnt out training because you work hard to train them and they end up being flakes and not listening, or listening to the wrong person. In my head I am like, that's not how it's done. I also don't like bombarding new hires with info, so I get tight-lipped when someone that has been working for a while says something incorrect. It's rough, I feel that. I'm a very hands-off trainer once we've gone through the basics. I'll let my trainees make mistakes and talk with them about it afterwards. To be clear though, I am keeping an eye on them. Weak against fire and sharp objects. Underrated comment. We make pretty bad Pokemon. Weak to fire, water, electricity, grass, ice, rocks, the ground, steel, fighting, poison, flying, falling. If dragons, fairies, ghosts and psychics existed, we'd probably be weak to them too. Some people are even additionally weak to bugs in the dark. There's nothing that we're actually good at. We're the ultimate glass cannon. Even less resilient than glass, but also invented the cannon. Edit. It was supposed to be a light-hearted thing, but since two people have questioned the glass part, here we go. Humans generally don't fight to the death or to the faint. That's pretty much why we think we lose against most animals half our size. To them, they could walk away with a broken leg, a missing leg, and a gash across their face and count it a victory. Most of us would admit defeat at first, almost blood, and it doesn't take very much to get to that point. So we're not talking about the force needed to break a femur or dislocate an elbow. We're talking about how easy it is to damage soft and squishy skin. Furthermore, glass isn't even that weak. It's just that we usually see it in millimeters thick sheets, or being hit by hard objects. You could wail on a glass pan the thickness of your forearm all day and not do much to it, unless you smashed it on the hard floor. And if you've ever skidded down a road or even a smoothish stone surface, that's not fun for a human either. Depends on the position, but I will sometimes say that I have trouble delegating when I know I can perform a task well. I'd rather just do it myself and know that everything will be done correctly. Edit. Thank you for the various precious metals. I realize this advice can backfire. That's why I said sometimes. There is also a way to phrase this that makes you sound better. I'm the same way. I'd be afraid to say this in an interview though, because it could be interpreted as not a team player. I wouldn't say I'm not a team player, but I do have a hard time working with a lazy team that does bad work. It's a pretty good answer. I've both used it and heard it in interviews, and it always comes off as introspective and insightful, as long as you say how you're planning to deal with this. There's nothing wrong with saying that you have a hard time working with a lazy team if you reword it, such as saying you have high standards for yourself as well as for others, and often find yourself pushing yourself or your team harder than necessary, even if you're not the team leader. To improve on this, you're learning to delegate and to plan out team responsibilities or some such. The wrong answer is surprisingly so common. When people say things like I'm a perfectionist or I'm a workaholic, trying to present things the company will find desirable as their weaknesses. I've seen it myself and can't believe people still do that. Don't do that. At best, the interviewer will jot you down as not giving a good answer. At worst, they'll tell you those aren't real weaknesses and force you to make something up that you didn't prepare for. Some people even say I don't have an I don't know of any, which is probably the worst answer you can give. Either you're too arrogant to admit your opportunities or too unaware to recognize them. The other mistake people make is being too honest. You just want to name something that is a legit weakness but won't make you look inept or irresponsible. Don't talk about being lazy, partying too hard, being depressed, having a hard time talking to people or anything like that, because those are obviously huge red flags. Name something you can actually talk about and then make sure to include steps you've taken to improve in that. For example, I've always struggled with public speaking. I've sought out presentation opportunities in my last position to challenge myself, and it has really helped my growth. I'm excited to continue improving my presentation skills in my next position. If you can, include a funny anecdote that demonstrates your difficulty before and your improved capabilities after pushing yourself. Sometimes they'll ask you to expand on your answer, and a story with examples of before and after is the best way to follow up. Public speaking is my go-to example because it's so relatable. Very few people are actually 100% comfortable with it. It's also likely to be true for you, so you'll sound honest. I once got a job partly because of my honest answer to this. I need to know why I am doing what I'm doing. I don't like being told to do something without an end game in mind. without knowing the reasoning behind it. When I work, I need something to aim at. Some employers don't like this because they like their employees to be cogs in a machine they control. I don't like those jobs and I don't want them. The place I was applying to was not that kind of workplace, and they liked my answer. Ended up being a great job where my boss valued my input and trusted me to take the reins on a variety of tasks. Edit. Wow. Thanks for the gold and silver. RIP my inbox. This is me. I'll help my husband with projects in the garage, working on the car, building things, etc. And I always want to know why or how we're doing it. It drives him crazy because he doesn't want to stop work to explain it. He was in the army and trained to just do what he was told without question. But I can't function like that. I can't mindlessly do something without knowing what its purpose is. My life growing up, helped my dad with chores and animals every weekend and never knew when we would be stopping or if I had more after I finished my current task. It helped my work ethic in the long run, but dang, I'm laying it all out there when my kids get older. We gonna mow, pull weeds, and mulch. Should take 4 hours and we'll get ice cream afterwards. Done. Terrible handwriting is my biggest weakness, also you'll never know what I wrote down. It looks like a blind man wrote. Edit. And thank you everyone who wished me a happy cake day. I keep replying and whatnot, but I'm about to go to work. So here is one big thank you. Also thanks for making it feel like I'm not alone on the bad handwriting thing. I've always been embarrassed about it, but I appreciate you all with horrid handwriting. I don't feel so alone. I interviewed a girl once and she said honestly, cake, I can never say no to it. She was so genuine and the answer struck us all as honestly hilarious. We hate those corporate interview questions too. It was more about finding someone who could answer questions like a real person and had some sort of personality show through. It's amazing how many people just couldn't answer certain questions, as though they were so nervous to get it wrong they froze up. In another interview, my boss asked a candidate, tell me about a time you screwed up at work. She thought for a while and said, gosh, I'm sorry. There are certainly times, but there's nothing major that comes to mind at the moment. I'll think on it while we do other questions. That's what we wanted as interviewers. Not a perfect answer, just people that seemed comfortable and normal, lol. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm only 16, so I hope you didn't cringe from the editing. I hope we can get to 50,000 subscribers because I wouldn't be here without all of you. So thank you so much for your time and energy, and please subscribe.